everyone, welcome back to the Library of Parthos. My name is Sarah, and today we are talking about the second book in the Letters of Enchantment series, and that is Ruthless Vows by Rebecca Ross. I did a review a few weeks ago of the first book in this duology, and I believe I described it as unputdownable, and I would say the same goes for this book as well. It was certainly one of the best series that I've read in a while. It was much needed. Just to kind of, not that I was in like a reading slump, but it was nice to just have something that kind of reminded me, like, I love reading in general. I'll read pretty much anything, but like it's these types of books that are really what I'm in it for, these types of characters that you just get so concerned about, the situations where, you have a commitment, like going to sleep at a normal time, or like you have to leave for something and you just can't do it because you have to finish the book. Those types of situations are what I absolutely love, and I had that with this series for sure. Because this is the second book in the series, I don't really think there's a way for me to avoid spoilers, so I will just say that if you've not read the first book, a lot of the first book is going to get spoiled, and also if you are kind of holding out for the second book, you might want to wait until after you read it to avoid spoilers for the end of the story. So with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about the story, Ruthless Vows. First of all, recapping book one, just a very broad overview. Our main characters are Iris Winnow and Roman Kit. Iris is a reporter at the Oath Gazette, so is Roman Kit, and they are both kind of rivals per se, trying to get this full-time columnist position that is highly sought after. Iris's brother ends up enlisting to fight in the war that is currently going on, and her mother passes away, at which point she decides to work for the Enchantment Tribune, which is another unbiased paper reporting on the war, and she becomes a reporter on the front lines. The whole time, she and Roman Kit are communicating with these magical typewriters. He knows it's her, she doesn't know it's him, so he ends up following her to the front lines, where they have this budding romance, only to be separated at the end when a mustard gas type attack happens. Roman gets kind of stuck behind, and Iris thinks she's running to safety with Roman, but it actually turns out that it's her brother Forrest who is taking her to safety. Before moving into the plot of book two, because it pretty much picks up exactly where book one left off, I do just want to quickly review the two sides to this war, because it's obviously going to come a lot more into play with the story as we kind of wrap things up. So we have Dacre, underling, who is the god of like the underworld, and we have Enva Skyward, who is a goddess of music, but she also like helps people when they die kind of pass over peacefully. She and Dacre were married. Their marriage did not go very well, and so she ended up putting all of the old gods to sleep with her music, and then just kind of disappearing into the mortal world. Many, many, many years later, Dacre wakes up. He is trying to get to his wife, and he enlists an entire army to do so. So Enva also enlists forces to fight for her. Iris's brother Forrest enlisted to fight for Enva. We find out at the end of book one, and more so in book two, that he was injured early on. He was kidnapped by Dacre, and kind of the way Dacre's been building his army is he's been taking injured soldiers, healing them, kind of erasing their memories, and kind of just putting them into the situation where they're really grateful for being healed. They don't remember much, so they're willing to fight for him. In book one, Iris is reporting on the front lines. She spends a day in the trenches and she loses her locket. Forrest picks it up, and it's at that point that he kind of remembers who he is, his whole life, that he's really not there to fight for Dacre, and so he decides to take a moment to escape, and he does so, finding his sister in the process, unfortunately leaving an injured, dying Roman Kit behind, who is then taken by Dacre to be used as one of his soldiers. And that's kind of where we leave off. At the beginning of book 2, Iris and Forrest are back in Oath. They're kind of readjusting to their life, having been traumatized by everything that they've experienced, and also now that their mother is dead and not there with them. Iris continues to work at the Ink-Written and Tribune just kind of as a standard reporter, not reporting from the front lines. And Forrest is, I think he's working at like a garage, some sort of mechanical work to try to adjust to normalcy, you know, getting treated for his injuries, which now that he's away from Dacre and his healing magic are not necessarily getting worse, but they're not getting any better either. So he is kind of getting treated for those. In another part of the world, Roman Kit has been healed. He is now working for Dacre. He has no memory of what happened before, but Dacre noticed that he was in a reporter's like jumpsuit, and so he decides to use Roman Kit to his advantage and asks that he kind of type up whatever Dacre wants him to, and they send it to the Oath Gazette, which is where both Iris and Roman worked before. It was a pretty biased newspaper anyway, so it makes sense that it's just reporting on, you know, the same stuff. Iris sees in the newspaper that an article was written by Roman Kit, and she, I think, was pretty certain he wasn't dead, but she wasn't 100% sure. And so at that moment, she realizes, you know, that he's alive, and she knows that there's a chance she can contact him because of their magical typewriters. Now, she left hers behind. However, there are a total of 3 Allouette typewriters. The other one is in a museum. So they do this like mini heist where she and her friend Addie, the other reporter that she was with in the first book, sneak into the museum at night, steal the typewriter, and head back. And she's back to being able to communicate with Roman Kit as per usual. However, he still doesn't know who she is. So they're kind of back to that initial dance of, you know, just getting to know each other, not giving away too much information, because at this point she knows for a fact he's working for the enemy. You know, she's trying to like rekindle anything that she can. Roman, not remembering that she's his wife, is just kind of grateful to have a friend, not wanting to get that person in trouble and not wanting to overshare. So he's still kind of cautious, but also very willing in their conversations. Now, Roman is starting to have dreams of Iris. He doesn't know who she is, but he's kind of imagining different, or he's dreaming rather, different situations, interactions. And so he knows that there's this person that means something to him, good or bad. He just can't really figure out the rest yet. Iris decides that she wants to head closer to the front to continue reporting, and also in the chance that she can find Roman, because if her brother was able to escape from Dacre's influence, then Kit should be able to as well. So she and Addie head out with the help of Tobias Bexley, who is a race car driver essentially. So he gets them to Marisol's house very quickly. Marisol was the B&B owner in the first book. So they're all reunited. It's a really happy reunion, and they have, you know, smaller adventures along the way. At one point, Iris, Addie, and Tobias are traveling in the area that the first book ended, in the area that Dacre's forces attacked. They now occupy that spot, and their car breaks down. So Iris decides, hey, you know, we were just in town. It's not that far. I bet I could walk there and get whatever we need and come back. And as she does so, she ends up in a house, in a room, face to face with Roman Kit. And they have this like heartbreaking interaction where he's like, I know you. I think that we're something. I don't think we're enemies. Maybe we're friends, but maybe something more than that. And she ends up saying, you know, I'm your wife. And she gives him her wedding ring and has to escape because there are other soldiers there. And he does promise to find her whenever he can in the future. So it's the wedding ring that does it. That is the point at which Roman Kit remembers who Iris is, and their communication can then continue in full force, and he is sharing information about what's happening from his perspective. You know, he's kind of become a spy at this point. He's trying to sneak glances at maps and plans and listen to what people are saying and share that information so that it can protect people. Iris has also been having dreams of her own, and she thinks that they're dreams of her mother, but it turns out that they're not actually dreams of her mother. They're dreams in which Enva, the goddess of music, is attempting to communicate with her. And in the first book, they kind of did all this research to understand what I explained about why these gods and goddesses were asleep, why they're fighting, all of those things. Enva says in her dreams, you know, I can do it again. I can put Dacre to sleep again. My issue is that I can't get close to him. I need somebody else to get close to him and to play this song that's going to then put him to sleep, at which point then I can get there. And Iris says, you know, well, Addie has a hidden violin because music has been banned in Oath because everyone's afraid that they're going to start working for, like, people who play music are going to start working for Enva. So Addie's been hiding this violin in her parents' basement. She is somewhat familiar with the song. Iris kind of helps her out with it, and Addie learns it, and then they come up with this plan that they are going to then go to Dacre's, like, lair, and they are going to put him to sleep so that Enva can finish things off. Now, Roman Kit's family, new money. They're working for Dacre. They're making weapons and tools for him. And Dacre kind of moves underground. So there is a door within the Kit estate that will lead to his underground lair. And Roman and Iris kind of have a few stolen moments throughout the story, one of which is at the Kit estate where they're kind of figuring this all out. And so that's the plan, that they're going to access this underground, it's like a tunnel system, city, maybe? I think it would be described as a city. And that's where they're going to attack. Apparently Roman wasn't so sneaky because Dacre kind of figures out that he's been less than truthful, and so he ends up getting chained underneath with these rails, I think is what they're called, that really attack based on movement. So if he moves, he's dead. It's not a great situation to be in. It's okay though, because right about that time is when their attack plan is enacted, and Addie heads underground, starts playing the song. Dacre's kind of, things start to fall asleep. Things just, like, he loses control over them. And then Enva comes in and just ends it all. And it's great. One of the soldiers that Roman Kit was kind of friends with comes down and, like, helps him out and everything. But then all of the soldiers are taken as traitors. And they're kind of, a few days later, put before this firing squad. So Roman Kit is about to be killed for being a soldier, for wearing Dacre's outfit, really without much of a choice. Thankfully, Iris and her letters are there to save the day, and she can make a solid case that Roman Kit was there against his will. He was trying to help, and he gets to go free. Unfortunately, the rest of them are killed, and there's kind of some argument about whether that was the right thing to do or not. Before they can enact their plan, Dacre is getting closer and closer to Oath, and he is planning an attack on the city of Oath. Iris and her friends have kind of figured out that there are these specific locations within the city that are safe. It's basically anything that's on, like, a ley line has just enough magic that it should be fine in the event of any bombing. So they have this imminent bombing is coming. They are trying to warn people, get to one of these locations, whichever one is closer to you, as fast as you can. So it's one of the cafes that they used to go to. I think it's one of the newspapers, the museum maybe. And word gets to Forrest, and Sarah Prindle, who was one of Iris's friends at the Oath Gazette, she's kind of stepped in to help Forrest adjust, and they're pretty romantically involved at this point. So they are also running to one of these, like, magical locations to be safe. As the city is kind of getting cleaned up, Iris is helping provide medical treatment for people who were injured, just kind of helping people reunite with their families, looking for any survivors, and unfortunately they do uncover Forrest and Sarah crushed underneath a building. I was really sad about that. So at the end, unfortunately, Iris has lost both her mother and her brother and one of her close friends. However, she and Kit do reunite, everything's fine. He has some lung damage from this like mustard gas type thing that he inhaled. However, with treatment and just kind of lifestyle changes, it seems like everything's going to be fine. And then the last chapter is just kind of them getting their very quiet, peaceful, happy ending where they have like a small house, where they can both write, and it's just, you know, after all the chaos, I think that's exactly what they wanted, and that's exactly what they get, and it was great. So that is the Letters of Enchantment duology. I really love Rebecca Ross's writing. I have a couple other books by her that I definitely want to prioritize now. I really appreciate the way that she writes the characters and how relatable they are. She really writes characters that you can care about, that you get invested in, and they're very well fleshed out. Like, we get to see a lot of their personality, and I just think that that's really great. So I highly recommend this series if you've not read it. Both books are out, so you can just binge the entire series. It's a really great read. I know on Instagram I've seen a lot of fan art of the characters, and that's kind of when I know that maybe I've missed something that I should have read earlier, or that I really need to prioritize something, and that's kind of what made me pick up Divine Rivals in the first place. I had it for months, and then I started seeing Iris and Roman fan art and thought, okay, this is a lot bigger than I thought it was. I think I need to get on board. So yeah, definitely check it out if you haven't already. If you have read it, I'd love to know your thoughts. I'm sure there are a lot of plot elements that I skipped over in trying to summarize the big parts, so I'd love to talk more about this series. But as always, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye!